Check back in with meteorologists Llarisa, Abreu, and Tammie, Souza. You guys have been watching the numbers as they roll in from the National Weather Service. What's the latest that you have been seeing?
You know, before we get to that, I wanted to point out something that Jim said that was really interesting. He said that usually when you have flood warnings, people typically just kind of not really heed to them. But when you have a tornado warning, that's when you heed to them. But check this, with tropical systems, flooding or water is the #1 cause of death. So you have to keep that in your head. Take this seriously because this can happen, and I think that we're going to continue to see just extreme weather events like this.
Yeah, they're just going to be high-end events and more of them. And in fact, northern New Jersey, people lost their lives in their cars being swept off the road. That's the last place you want to be, is in a car, and you don't want to drive through flood waters. We've said it again and again and again. A foot of water will float your car. If it's fast-moving water, you're trapped. Turn around, don't drown. That's our mantra. And at this point now, we're seeing everything starting to level off, but it is going to be days before these big rivers get down to but well below flood stage to where they should be. And I know that that's something we've been looking at. We've also been following these tornadoes. We had a tornado emergency, and it's officially, that's what it's called, and PDS, particularly dangerous situation, on several of the tornadoes last night. So,
which has only happened twice ever here in this region, and to just put that into perspective, that's not something that's usually said by the National Weather Service. So we had just an extreme weather event from, of course, that flooding that's still ongoing right now, to the tornadoes that we saw. And we want to get you right outside to this graphic here. This is today's tornado surveys, and the National Weather Service is surveying 8 areas, including Mercer, Chester, Montgomery, Bucks, Salem, Gloucester, Burlington, and Somerset counties. Of course, that includes eastern Pennsylvania, back towards parts of New Jersey, and not to mention 2 other tornado warnings that were issued out in Delaware. We'll have all of that information once we get them, but here is what you need to know. What happens after these tornadoes? You want to watch for live wires. Also, you want to be careful because buildings could be unstable. We saw that time and time again. Some of those pictures with those tornadoes have been completely devastating to watch, as homes were just laid flat and shredded to nothing but rubble. You also want to watch for sharp objects and debris out there, and when we take some images here on the tornadoes and everything that you see, there's a lot of different objects, from beds to just all sorts of things, tree limbs. So you want to just exercise caution. We've been watching these numbers all morning long, and of course, Tammie, we've been also watching what's going on as far as the floods and the creeks with these rivers and creeks and their crests. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to you. You have more numbers.
Yeah, well, you know what? Let's continue talking just a bit on these tornadoes, because this is something that you would see across the plains, maybe even more than in the Midwest. We had an event that you would see in the southeast or the Central Plains. So let's take a look at some of the numbers. We had 16 tornado warnings yesterday. That is a total of 51 for the year so far, and that is a new record. That's more than we have ever had in this area. Now, 16 warnings does not mean we have 16 tornadoes. Some of the storms were warned, and then the warning was extended into another county. But nonetheless, I do think that we are going to see more than 1 or 2 storms. We did have one that was confirmed in Mullica Hill, and we've had others. We've shown you the video today, the images, that I can personally say, yes, looking at that, that is tornado damage, because of the way that the trees are laying down and because of the way that the trees are stripped of their bark. We did have that particularly dangerous tornado warning, particularly dangerous situation. That is a label that goes on a very rare tornado, and it only goes on tornadoes that are going through heavily populated areas or very life-threatening tornadoes. And again, the National Weather Service is going to get out there today, as Llarisa said, and they're going to do their survey. Now, here are where all those tornado warnings were last night. The little X's can mark it out. A lot of them into South Jersey and right along the I-95 corridor, including Philadelphia, and then off into Montgomery and Bucks County. These are the shear trackers. This is something that we look at as a storm goes by. You can look at these to see where the most damage and debris would be. Well, certainly you can see that one, and it is the one that was moving right on through Upper Dublin, and that is where we saw a lot of the damage. Where you see those darker shades is where we saw the most damage. We've also been dealing with the one that was over in South Jersey, and you can see the tracks moving toward Mantua. Now, take a look. There it is, Mullica Hill, right in the path of this particular storm. So this is something that happened again and again last night. We saw numerous storms passing over the area. We did have severe storms with damaging winds, but predominantly we had those tornado warnings because we had individual supercell storms, which you rarely see in the Northeast. Usually they're rain-wrapped or they're along a line and they're buried and you can't see them. So this was something that was very clear, and a lot of the images, I know that on our website we have a lot of that amazing video. So many people captured these tornadoes, and they were large wedge tornadoes that we saw throughout the area. So we're continuing to watch that. We're continuing to watch the Schuylkill as it does this prolonged crest in Philadelphia, and this could take anywhere from another hour or two to finally start to turn downward. But again, it's going to be days before these big rivers get back into their banks and things start to clear out. So please exercise caution if you're driving around. A lot of roads are blocked. And again, if you don't have to go out today, just don't do it.